don't suffer damage caused by their own lawyer. So these cases have been referred by the SIU. 5, the SIU has identified numerous cases in the Eastern Cape where the living conditions of the claimants and their children remain appalling despite having received compensation from the department, which money has been paid to their lawyers. We are counting millions here that the department already paid in the Eastern Cape. But the patients for which they were claimed are living in abject poverty because they never received a cent. Many of these claimants are unemployed and rely on social grants from SASSA for their livelihood, despite millions having been deposited into their lawyer's account. Some households are constrained into a single room or a small rondavel without appropriate railing or ramps to assist disabled children, resulting in inadequate living conditions and insufficient caregiving, despite the fact that in the claims, money has been paid for this type of facilities. This means when the lawyer claims in court, he'll say, "My honor, I also claim so much money because this person is on a wheelchair, they need to access the house, they need to be railings and all that." But when you go there, there's no such. Whereas the judges agreed that that money be paid by the state, and the state had indeed paid the money, but the poor patient received nothing. Furthermore, the SIU found that these children continue to place a burden on the already strained public health care system, whereas in the claims in court, the lawyer cited future medical care based on fees charged in private hospitals. In other words, they'll say this child must get the best care in a private hospital, and we demand so much, and that money has been paid, but they will never see the inside of any private hospital. They will still come to state hospitals. One notable instance, this is the last irregularity in the Eastern Cape. One notable instance involves cases where the department paid 373,850,748 rand 04 to Nonnuba, the attorneys have mentioned, for 22 claims between 2018 and 2021. However, several years later, an inspection by the SIU revealed that none of the claimants had trust accounts registered in their names as ordered by the courts, and their living conditions were found to be deplorable and impoverished. This means that Nonnuba attorneys have pocketed all the money for themselves, and this matter is already before the courts. I want to explain because I hope members of the public are listening. When a lawyer sues the state on your behalf, the money so paid doesn't go directly to the patient. It goes to the trust account of the attorneys. The court will then rule that a trust account be opened by the attorneys on behalf of the patient. And this is what Nonnuba attorneys never did, meaning they keep the money for themselves. They are not the only legal firm that does so. Quite a number of them do, but as I said, we are unable to name them. Let's go to the Free State. 417 medico-legal claims have been submitted to the tune of 4.9 billion. 52 claims valued at 400 million are currently under investigation by the SIU. The Free State, over a period of 5 years, from 2016-2020 to 2015-16 to 2020-21, the Free State has paid 95,607,862 rand and 16 cents. Number of and value of cases finalized by the SIU is 30. 30 cases have been finalized to the tune of 280 million. A number of cases still under investigation by SIU, 22 cases in that first inning, 120 million. The summary of findings in the Free State: number one, the SIU has identified a matter where the claim was valued at 7.5 million, in which the lawyers went against the medical advice of their own expert who advised them that there was no negligence on the part of the department. When the SIU confronts the lawyer, he then immediately withdrew the case. This means the lawyer went to his own medical expert, hoping to get the report to sue the state. And the medical expert wrote and said there's nothing to sue for. But the lawyer pushed that medical advice for his own expert and went to sue. But when the SIU confronted him, he immediately withdrew the case. Again, in the Free State, non-mover attorneys were found to be practicing without a Fidelity Fund certificate as required by law. This matter has been referred to NPA. So non-mover attorneys is not only in Eastern Cape, they are also found in the Free State. The SIU has made 17 referrals to the Legal Practice Council against 3 law firms, including non-mover, for misconduct related to touting for work, which is forbidden by law. The value of these referrals is approximately 78 million rand. Unfortunately, we are not able to name the other legal firms because there were 3. We are only naming non-mover again because the others have not yet been charged. The last finding in the Free State, the theft of medical records has been discovered in the Free State too, along with 2 other attorneys without withholding funds intended for claimants. It was found that in most instances, the hospital did not have these medical records. The problem involved 2 specific hospitals in the province. In one case, where a settlement for general damages was made, the court did not require the establishment of a trust. Instead, 6 million rand was paid into the claimant's attorney's account. The attorney firm paid the claimant 250,000 rand initially, and then 10,000 monthly. This irregularity is under further investigation by the SIU. As can be seen, this law firm is making undue benefits from the interest of the money that belongs to the patient. Let me go to Gauteng, which is the biggest up to so far, more than even Eastern Cape. 2,450 medical legal claims have been submitted in Gauteng to the value of 24,445,550,786 rand. The number and value of cases currently under investigation by SIU, out of these 2,450, SIU is investigating 611 cases, valued at 4.1 billion. And the total amount of money paid by Gauteng over the 5 years, from 2015-16 to 2020-21, is 1.001 billion, to save time. The number of value of cases finalized by the SIU out of these 611, which are under their investigation, they finalized 58 cases valued at 66,015,000. And number and value of cases unfinalized is still 2,392 cases unfinalized, to the tune of 23.7 billion. Summary of electoralities in Gauteng. The SIU identified 40 matters involving claims submitted to the value of 496,650,000. 19 out of these 40 claims are on behalf of children who are actually deceased, but the lawyers continued with the claims. 2, I'm sure you'll understand why this is important. Somebody is late, but you continue with the claim, which might have started when they were still alive, but you are continuing. In the claim, you are claiming for future medical care when the person is already gone. You are claiming for loss of amenities of life. You are also claiming for loss of future income. 2 of the 40 are actually employed, whereas the lawyers have claimed for loss of earnings. One child actually had no cerebral palsy at all, whereas the lawyers were claiming for this condition. 9 claimant attorneys withdrew when they realized that the SIU was investigating. The value of this case, the value of their claims which they withdrew, is 149,304,325. One case was struck off the roll, obviously because it had no merit. In all these instances of wrongdoing, the SIU will refer implicated attorneys and officials to the NPA for criminal investigations or charges, and the LPC, the Legal Practice Council. Let's go to the KZN, the third province. Number of claims 2,440, valued at 29 billion. I made a mistake. I said this Gauteng, which is the biggest. The kingdom is actually the biggest. 29,140,032. 29,140,032,315 rand 42 cents. The number and value of cases currently under investigation. Out of these 2,440, the SIU is investigating 713 to the tune of 8.7 billion. Total amount paid by KZN up to so far for the 5 years, reminding you 5 years, 2015-16 to 2020-21, is 1.3 billion already paid. Number and value of cases finalized by SIU out of this 713 they are busy with is 107 matters finalized, and the value is 2.4 billion. Number and value of cases unfinalized is still 1,420 to the tune of 18 billion. Summary of irregularities identified in KZN. Out of the 107 matters finalized, 76 relate to instances where claimants are actually deceased, and the value of 1.5 billion. This money has been removed from the contingent liability of KZN. One attorney was found to have submitted a claim to the value of 16 million rand after the death of the child. The child died first, and the attorney submitted a claim of 16 million rand. Significantly in court, the lawyer was claiming for future medical care based on private hospital rates and loss of amenities of life. This one will also be referred for criminal prosecution. Number 3, irregularity in KZN. The SIU has made 4 referrals to NPA and 3 to the Legal Practice Council against attorneys and private individuals who were found in possession of stolen medical records. This issue of stealing medical records. So these people have been caught and referred to. Now, all in KZN, all in all, 2,416,284,800 rand has been saved. It has been prevented by the actions of SIU. I'm sure you may just notice that this amount, just for KZN, is bigger than VBS amount. I'm saying so because in VBS, you see headlines and all that. But here is some heist in one province bigger than VBS. The difference is that in VBS, victims were poor, women, funeral societies, etc. In this case, it is the state that is paying, but all of us in this room are victims because this is public money. So this money, 2.4 billion, has been saved. If the SIU didn't come in, this money will have been lost. Let me go to Mpumalanga. Mpumalanga, 419 cases submitted to the tune of 6.4 billion. A number of value of cases currently under investigation is 902 to the tune of 10 billion. Total amount paid by Mpumalanga is still 139. I want to explain. Mpumalanga is still really at the beginning of the claim, so there are not even irregularities found. They were the province that is lagging behind. because the SIU might have gone to it much later. So let me jump to Limpopo. Limpopo, 1,600 medico-legal claims were submitted, and they are valued at 14 billion. Currently, out of this 1,600 claims, the SIU is investigating 303 cases involved, which are valued at 5.2 billion. Total amount paid by the department up to so far is 248,390,884 and 66 cents. That has been paid by the that has been paid by Limpopo during that period of 2015, 16, 2020, 2021. Number and value of cases finalized by SIU, they finalized 63 cases worth 139 million, and the number and value of cases unfinalized, meaning still under investigation, 698, which are valued at 2.7 billion. Summary of irregularities or wrongdoing found in Limpopo. Number one, the SIU identified 26 matters to the value of 657,291,825, in which the claimants were confirmed to be deceased. But the lawyers continued with the claims, in which they are also citing future medical care, loss of income, loss of amenities of life, as they've done in other provinces. These cases have been referred to NPA for criminal persecution and the Legal Practice Council for professional misconduct by the involved lawyers. In another matter, that's number 2, irregularity Limpopo, the department paid 120,000 rand for the claims into accounts of the attorney's trust. Amazingly, the attorney kept the money. It's very little, but we are talking about the moral value of it. This happened in 2016, but the attorney did not release that money to the claimant. When the SIU have authorized investigating, the attorney got scared and even paid double of the amount he was supposed to pay. I don't know whether he thought maybe the sentence would be less, but he didn't have to double the amount, but he did. The last, the amount of 657,291,824 cited above will be removed from the province's contingent liability. Limpopo is 657 million less liable than the lawyers had claimed up to so far, but you can see the SIU is still at the beginning. Northern Cape, 114 medical legal claims to the tune of 1.5 billion have been submitted. Number and value of cases currently under investigation, 20 to the tune of 558 million. Total amount that has been paid by Northern Cape is 1.4 billion, which is very, very high compared to the size of the province. Number and value of cases finalized. The SIU has finalized only one case worth 23 million, and they are still left with 19. I mean, out of those which they are investigating, 19 worth 535 million. Summary of irregularities in Northern Cape. The SIU investigation uncovered a case where 31 million rand was deposited into the attorney's account to pay the claimant directly. However, the lawyer did not open the trust account as directed by the court order, which resulted in them keeping the money and earning back interest. This matter has also been referred to NPA and LPC. This is Northern Cape. In one instance, a lawyer was paid 18.7 million by the court. This was an out-of-court settlement. In other words, the lawyer claimed a certain amount of money, but in out-of-court settlement, which was approved by the court, the lawyer got 8.7 million, but is paying the claimant only 6,000 rand per annum. per month, sorry. Only 6,000 rand per month for the past 18 months. There's no indication that the lawyer was going to pay any other amount if the SIU did not intervene. This case has been referred to the LPFF, the fund I've spoken about, to reimburse the poor patients. And let me just summarize it. The lawyer received 18.7 million rand. But over an 18-month period until the SIU intervened, the poor patient was getting only 6,000 rand. If you calculate it, it was going to be 72,000 per annum. And this poor patient was only going to reach 1 million after 15 years, when 18.7 million in their name has been issued by a court of law. The SIU further identified 4 matters to the value of 169,400,000, all submitted by one attorney. The patients were interviewed and denied that they ever signed a power of attorney or instructed any attorney to lodge claims against the department on their behalf. 169 million, 4 matters where patients know nothing about, but we can't name the attorney again. This matter is being referred to the NPA and LPC. Northwest, 230 claims submitted to the tune of 1.5 million. Currently, 32 cases under investigation to the tune of 222 million, 222 million. Total amount paid by Northwest over the period 2015-16, 2020-21 is 122,491,200 is the lowest up to so far. Number and value of cases finalized, 12 to the tune of 32 million. Number of value of cases unfinalized, which are still under investigation by SIU, is 20 cases worth 190 million. Summary of findings in Northwest. The SIU found that 3 cases where 45 million rand was not deposited into the trust account for patients as required by the court. 3 cases worth 45 million was not deposited into the trust account for patients as required by the court. Instead, the money was placed into the attorney's trust accounts since December 2018, accruing interest rather than establishing a trust account on behalf of the patient. This matter will also be referred to NPA and LPC, NPA and NPC. Secondly, in Northwest, SIU discovered a case in which a claimant's attorney received 14,450,000 and only paid the patient 370,000. This money was deposited into the attorney's account in February 2021, but the attorney only paid the patient in May 2022. That means after 1 year of receiving 14.5 million, after 1 year the patient received only 370,000. The investigation revealed that the attorneys acted fraudulently and in contempt of court. Again, we are unable to name the attorney, not yet charged. The attorney is not yet charged. And the matter has been referred to NPA and LPC. Western Cape, this will be the last province. Mercifully, the last province. Number of cases submitted, 409 claimants to the value of 2,852,588 rand, 588,055 rand and 99 cents. The number and value of cases currently under investigation, preliminary assessment of raw data, database of claims provided by the Office of the State Attorney, so it's still the beginning. But the total amount paid by Western Cape from 2015-16 is 273,248,535 rand and 91 cents. Number and value of cases finalized, I've already talked about preliminary assessment. Summary of irregularities in the Eastern Cape. The Eastern Cape up to so far, sorry, my apologies. Maybe let me take some water. Yes, we are on Western Cape, the last province. In the Western Cape, they were hit by only one atom, up to so far. I'm talking about the irregularities found, because the others could be found because it's still preliminary assessment. But what has been found and finalized is one case. I mean, it's one lawyer. The SIU identified 33 fraudulent birth injury claims, that means cerebral palsy, in the contingent liability register to the value of 409 million rand. These cases include allegations of fraudulent medical negligence claims, and they were submitted by one legal firm, which is known, as we have said, on behalf of these various patients. Fortunately, none of the 409 million rand has been paid, and it will be removed from the contingent liability. So, in total, from 2015-16, 2020-21, all the 9 provinces have paid 7,749,478 rand and 45 cents. I'm repeating this because this morning I heard all over the media houses that provinces have paid 28 billion or 24 billion. I think we somehow confusing the claims to the total amount of paid, and I'm repeating. All 9 provinces added together between 2015-16 to 2020-21 paid 7,754,478 rand and 45 cents. Now, so far, in the matters finalized by SIU, and as you heard the figures, it's still the tip of the iceberg because they are still at the beginning of the investigation. Regardless of the fact that they are already at the beginning, the SIU has saved the state the sum of 3,104,684,800 rand. This money would have been paid if the SIU did not come in. It has been saved for the department. And obviously you can see these savings are going to increase dramatically as investigation happens. So in conclusion, the relationship between the department and SIU in the fight against corruption will not only be limited to the medico-legal investigation. We planned on the foundation of corruption. Now I want to assure you that that's not going to be allowed. We are already working together with the Health Sector Anti-Corruption Forum. That includes SIU. We're not going to allow any corruption just to happen under our noses. We've seen enough. There are naysayers that investigation by institutions like SIU are just for public relations exercise and are meant to yield no results. This was said by a prominent South African in May this year, just 2 weeks, 10 days before election, after the Department of Home Affairs called the SIU to raid the refugee reception centers in which many of you in the media attended. And this was done after a tip-off by a whistleblower. And somebody said, we know that these things are just happening for public relations. Now, I can assure you today, the results of those raids in the refugee centers will come out in the same way as the SIU started investigating medico-legal in 2017, and the results are only coming now. You know, the wheels of justice grind very slowly, but when they start grinding, they grind exceedingly fine, and this is going to happen. So those naysayers who in May will say, no, this is just public relations before elections and all that, must know that the SIU, we already know some preliminary results, but today is not their day. We wish to take this opportunity, and I'm asking the media to listen carefully because I want you to come and help in this case. We wish to take this opportunity to make an offer to lawyers who might have knowingly submitted claims that are fraudulent, as happened, to come and withdraw them within 2 weeks, and there will be no consequences. If you are a lawyer out there, you have submitted a claim in the category of fraud, please come and withdraw them. Nothing will happen to you because you'll have gone. By the way, we didn't give you the figures of lawyers who withdraw in the Eastern Cape when they had that SIU is in. They came to withdraw. So we are calling all lawyers, please come and withdraw, and we are promising you publicly nothing will happen. And we are giving you 2 weeks. But failure to withdraw within 2 weeks will mean that the offer will lapse and the SIU will strike. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Minister. And like I said, I hope you understand why I said it's going to be a long statement. But at the end, the intention is to give you enough information so that you understand where we are in terms of the investigation and the amounts that we are talking about. We have now reached that stage of this press conference where we're going to request if there are any questions. Maybe we must start outside. Oh, we want to start here? Okay. Let's take it 1, 2, 3 as it comes. So you know what to do. I don't have to tell you what to do.
Okay. Junior Kumalo from Newsroom Africa. To the ministers and the head of the SIU, please forgive me if some of the questions are not coherent because we are still trying to process the information that you gave us. It was quite comprehensive. But to start off where the minister basically finished, where he made a plea to some of the lawyers who have made claims that might be fraudulent to basically withdraw those claims. Is that not then going to be part of the problem? Because, Minister, when you started, you spoke about the road accident fund, and that when there was an investigation in that fund and the corruption in relation to that fund, that's when a lot of these lawyers jumped ship and started coming into the medical claims business, basically. So is that not where the problem is? And just to the advocates, I guess, when it comes to the road accident fund, the investigations that were done there, was there any prosecution of those lawyers? Or because of the lack of this prosecution, these lawyers basically were emboldened and they were able to go into the medical claims business? Also, Minister, you were able to name one law firm, and you indicated that this is because they've already been charged, and I guess they are appearing in court proceedings. What is taking longer to basically charge the other law firms? Because it seems like there was this ability to charge this one particular law firm. Is it investigations are still ongoing when it comes to the other law firms? Yeah, I'll allow my colleagues to take a bite.
It's Rorisang from Times Live, Rorisang Khosana. Yeah, we have a long list of questions, but I'll just ask a few. For now, I'd like to know more about the state attorneys that managed to settle out of court without the knowledge of the department or notifying the department. Do you perhaps have the sum of the value, let's say, of these claims that were paid by the state attorneys, and what is going to happen to these state attorneys? Are they also going to be referred to the LPC? And then another question, these two provinces, or three, it was Eastern Cape, KZN and Gauteng, which hospitals were mostly targeted or accused, let's say, of medical negligence? That is my questions for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Aviwem Dila from ENCA. Firstly, Minister, were you aware, I understand you were Health Minister at the the time, 2016 till 2019. Were you aware of some of these claims at the time, and maybe could you have done anything differently? Also, now that this has come out and these findings have been done by the SIU, are you looking at maybe closing the loopholes? In what way to stop the greed of the lawyers? And also, have you taken action on against some of the employees of the Department of Health itself? You mentioned also, Minister, that the claims, a lot of them don't go to the actual claimants, and being the patients that were affected by some of these. Is there means to make the money that's been recovered go back to them? And also, maybe on a broader look at the health department itself. For example, we saw in the memorial of Babita Diokran yesterday that 3 billion of corruption was unearthed by the SIU just in Tembisa Hospital alone. And it's concerning at what's happening at the other aspects of the hospital. Will you be looking deeper perhaps into that? And we also heard maybe for the MEC of Health in Gauteng, just around the HOD of the Department of Health possibly being investigated by the SIU. Can that be confirmed if it is in fact happening? Thank you.
Thank you. I will allow for responses, and then we can take it from there. Who is starting?
Advocate, there are 2 questions for you. I don't think it must be answered by the MEC if you are investigating. There are things. And then, what took long to charge the other lawyers which were unable to name? Yes. I think those are the 2 for you. I'll take the rest.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Honorable Minister, Honorable DM, Honorable MSC, members of the media. The road accident fund question, is it because the lawyers were emboldened because of the failure of the prosecution? As you may be aware, that we do have a specific proclamation under which an intensive investigation is happening at the Road Accident Fund. And there are findings already there that we have really gone public on. I think even when we presented to the to SCOPA in Parliament, a number of attorneys there, a similar phenomenon that we are seeing here, that when we made findings against them around, fraudulent claims and so on, they came forward, and paid back, the monies. But over and above paying back the monies, we have also, as in this case, referred them to the Legal Practice Council and to the National Prosecuting Authority. So as you know, that once we refer evidence to NPA, they also have a duty to go through, the evidence, and of course, satisfy themselves that, they can make a decision either way, whether to prosecute or not to prosecute. But that's also on their part, a process that they follow. Right. The issue around I'll just go straight to the issue around the head of department at the Department of Health, whether he's under investigation or not. This question came up yesterday evening at the memorial service of Babita Diokran, and my response was, I will need to verify with the Gauteng head or Gauteng investigating team, because more often, these referrals are made to the investigating teams and so on. We did not have the actual response, and we did not want to mislead the public then. Overnight, we could not, get that verification, so we will still verify, and of course, you can come back to us where we can give you, a response, and of course, we will also inform the ministry and the MEC, because now it has come out public, will really inform them whether it's factual that is under investigation or not.
What took longer to charge others
Yes,
other than Nungu?
that's right. I think the response there is that, as you can see, the investigation is really quite complex. I think the issue around Nonguba, the reason why we are able to mention is because we started way back in the Eastern Cape, right? And perhaps the details of that is even before the proclamation was signed in 2022, we had already started investigation together with the Department of Health at the time, right? And how did it happen? As a question may come up, that why do you investigate without a proclamation? More often, the public really sees investigations that we conduct under proclamation. But there is a provision in our legislation which says we are able to second the SIU officials to state departments to start these preliminary investigations, which will allow us to gather information to then draft a proclamation. So this is how it happened. So at that time already, when we were, had seconded our officials to the Department of Health in the Eastern Cape, we already uncovered the activities of Nonguba, and then we were able to, because they are quite magnitude as well. It's not a small amount of claims. We took a while, but we were able to finalize them with the department and then deal with him at that time. So the others came, once the proclamation came up. So the Nonguba one we were able to process, and you can realize that these actually have footprints in other provinces. So when we analyzed his claims, we looked at other provinces as well. It's quite magnitude. So we already started the Legal Practice Council with him, and matters are already in the High Court, in the Western Cape as well, where we really would like the courts to ultimately struck the firm, Nonguba Attorneys Incorporation, of the practice role, and of course the criminal charges, have followed. They've already appeared in court, and other professional misconducts. Thank you, Minister.
Thanks a lot, Advocate. Junior, your first question is whether lawyers won't get emboldened, whether it's not the cause of the problem to withdraw. But let's look at practicalities and be pragmatic. In Gauteng alone, as I've said, the claims are 2,450. The SIU is busy with 611. They've only completed 58. They are investigating in RAF, in Tembisa, and many other places. It's a lot of work. They will arrive there, but the question is, after how long? Now, we are extending a hand of friendship for lawyers to change their mind. Let them be visited by their God or the angel Gabriel to warn them against the immorality of what they are doing. And we are saying when they do so, they will withdraw. There will be a withdrawal. I gave you an example of the 70 billion rand in Limpopo. All we did was to ask the attorney to, after Professor Mugwela made his finding, he said, no, bring your patient to be examined by our own professors. They immediately withdrew. I was very unhappy, I must tell you, but I realized later one got to be pragmatic. I was fighting with the police. They said, no, this guy is withdrawn. I said, no, he must still be charged. In the same week, there was a claim for cerebral palsy that never happened in Donald Fraser Hospital in Limpopo. And we brought the patient here to be examined by Professor Smart, who is the professor of pediatric neurosurgery at Steve Biko. and she found no cerebral palsy, and they immediately withdrew. We left them. We can still charge them, but as I'm saying, there's a lot of work, and we are just saying come and withdraw. And as it has already happened in the Eastern Cape, by the way, lots of them were withdrawn just by hearing that NPA is there. Now we are asking you to spread the message. Lawyer, please. Yeah, yeah. Did I say?
NPA.
Oh, sorry. Even yesterday I kept on saying NPA. I don't know what's wrong with me. So we are asking you to help us with your media channels. Lawyer, please. The game is over. Come and withdraw, and nothing will happen to you. But if you don't withdraw, certainly something is going to happen, because they will still reach you. Rory Sang, the issue of state attorneys doing out of court settlement is part of the investigation that are ongoing. Is there anyone? It's possible that they might have done out of court settlement innocently or out of not understanding, but then the question will still arise. Why you do that without a client? Remember, we as departments are clients of the state attorney. Just like you become a client of any other lawyer who will represent you. You won't be happy if that lawyer makes an out-of-court settlement and you knew nothing about it. Lawyers must work on the basis of instruction by clients. And so the NPA, the SIU rather, will help us in that regard. Which hospitals were mostly targeted? Without checking, I'll say in Gauteng is Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital. And I've seen ENCA has got somebody placed there at Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital, and on the bottom there, it was written negligence. I don't want to defend Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital. It's to be expected that in Gauteng they will be the topmost, for the simple reason that Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital is huge. I've said it before, that we're not supposed to have allowed such a hospital to exist, and we're still having plans to cut it down into components, because according to standards from the World Health Organization, no hospital must have more than 1,200 beds. If you do that, you won't be able to manage it. And that's what's happening at Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital. The last time I counted, I don't know MEC, it was 2,800 beds.
It's 888 now.
888? What happened to the rest?
2,800.
Yeah, 2,000. I was going to be surprised. The last time I checked, it was 2,800. So you say it's 2,888. And a normal hospital must be 1,200. If the hospital goes beyond that, it starts having problems. That's what Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital is. Remember that it was built for Soweto, which is huge, the biggest township in the country. And they kept on extending it. But now the time has arrived that Gauteng, you remember they did build other hospitals like Bekimlangeni to try and relieve Bara. But the size and the rate at which Soweto is growing and other settlements around is just not enough. So for that reason, you will definitely find this type of problems. It's simply on the basis of sheer numbers than anything else. The Aviwa, you are asking me about 2015, 2016, whether I was aware as a minister then. I thought I've informed you that in 2016 we called the medico-legal summit because of this awareness of the explosion. The reason that we called the medico-legal summit because we were sitting there and see escalation of claims, and we said something is happening here. And then we also learned that the private sector, that's why they were in the summit. Here the NPA, the SIU, oh my God. The SIU is not investigating private, but let me tell you what's happening. I promise you, now you remind me. The most targeted people are obstetricians and gynecologists, because pregnancy and childbirth can have complications, as you can see, cerebral palsy. So those colleagues who are in private practice, who are specializing in obstetrics and gynecology, are the most targeted, followed by neurosurgeon and spinal surgeon, because operating somebody on the brain and spine, you may not get 100% results. Then they are targeted so much that in private practice now, the Medical Protection Society, the society where doctors must go to buy indemnity, because you have to buy indemnity by force. Those who do not understand, like when you buy a new car, you have got to insure it, otherwise the bank won't agree to finance you. So here, when you start a medical practice, you have got to pay indemnity. That's insurance in case they sue you. Now, to be an obstetrician and a gynecologist in South Africa today, before you open your practice, you must put 1.3 million on the table for indemnity. Imagine, yes. They must buy indemnity for 1.3 million even before they open the practice, which means you must be rich already before you open that practice. Where are you going to get the money from? And so what's happening in South Africa now is that many obstetricians and gynecologists no longer practice obstetrics. You'll be aware that gynecology are diseases of women. Obstetrics specifically means pregnancy and childbirth. We have women who come and say, look, I've been going through, to this doctor for ages, but now I'm pregnant, he can no longer want to see me. Because he's scared of being litigated on. Which means what? Women are very soon no longer going to find gynecologists. So the results of this thing is manifold, as I may put it. Now, it has also resulted in doctors doing what we call defensive medicine, where when you got into the rooms of a doctor, he doesn't look at you sympathetically as a patient. He looks at you as a potential litigant, that you are going there to come and litigate against him if you made a mistake. What then will doctors do in defensive medicine? There are other investigations that are not necessary to cover themselves. He will do an x-ray and say, yeah, I found what I wanted to see. But then you'll say, oh my God, what if this person goes to court and the lawyers ask me why I didn't do a scan? What am I going to say? Then you'll say, medically, I can see a scan is not necessary, it's not indicated. But why not do it? It's the patient who's going to pay anyway. So they will do the scan and look at it again and say, what if they say I should have done an MIR, magnetic resonance imaging? I don't need it. But if they ask me in court, why not do it? It's not me who's paying, the patient is going to pay anyway. So you keep on ordering. This is what is happening in America, which has ratcheted the cost of healthcare in America. South Africa is right on the footsteps of America, to an extent where the former Director General of the World Organization asked me a question in Geneva when we were there for the World Medical Assembly. He said, Minister, tell me, in South Africa your healthcare system is British. You are running a British system, which is true. Our curriculum is British. Our degrees are British. Because they were our colonizers. Even up to today, our nurses training is British. She said, everything you do in healthcare is British. But when it comes to healthcare financing, you go American. Which is the system of healthcare financing we are following, which is American. The British system, as you know, they are following the NHS, which in South Africa we call the NHI, which all of you in front of me are fighting ferociously. But that's what the British system is doing, and it's saving the money. But in South Africa, we followed an American system. Because of this American system, let me give you figures. 43% of all the money that is spent in healthcare in the world is in one country, it's in America. All other countries of the world remain with, sharing among themselves, the remaining 57% of the total world healthcare expenditure. That's America, and yet we are moving in their footsteps and doing everything that the Americans were doing. That's why Dr. Chan asked me, at what stage did your country deviate from the British model and follow the American model? She even said the American model is the worst that America ever bequeathed to the world. That's why Barack Obama tried to change it with what is called Obamacare. The name Obamacare is a nickname, but it was masking the actual aims of Obama. The actual full name is Affordable Health Care. He said America must start now going for affordable health care because what they are doing is not sustainable, which is also, of course, not sustainable in South Africa. So we became aware of this, and we were worried, as we were saying in private practice. There is a professor who told me, he didn't hide it. He was a professor, I'm not going to name the hospital, but he also had his private practice. He then said, Minister, in my private practice, I don't want to see any pregnant women. I refer them to the hospital where I'm a professor, so that they can sue the state. In my practice, I'll only see gynae, because there are not many litigations against gynae. So the whole practice of medicine is changing in form and content because of this type of behavior. Action against employers, yes. Any employer who is found to be part of this collusion, the SIU will charge, will send to NPA. Like we have told you about nurses who steal records. I have seen in some of the reports, especially Auditor General, where she's blaming provinces for not keeping proper records. I may not stand against that and say they are proper records, but I can assure you most of them are stolen, as we have already said here. And the only thing that will help us if we have got electronic records, which we are working around the clock to have them. But it is health workers who are also helping. Look, there's financial incentive here. If a lawyer knows that he's claiming 35 million or 18 million, which I said a lawyer received in Eastern Cape, in Northern Cape, and they offer a nurse just 1 million or even 250,000 just to steal a file, they will do it, unfortunately. Because wherever there is money, there is evil. Whether, Avia, you also asked whether we'll recover money. But I thought I've explained it, you might not have picked it up. I said the legal practice provident fidelity fund, legal practice fidelity fund, LPFF, was established specifically to reimburse patients who might have been cheated by lawyers. Because by that time, the lawyer might have charged the money. He has got nothing, you can take him to jail and arrest him and strike him off the roll. But what is the poor patient going to get? So that fund was established to reimburse them. And as I've already said here when I was reading, some of them have already been reimbursed by such a fund. But then the lawyer must go and answer in court through the NPA and to their legal professions council. Yeah, I think we've answered all the questions. Thank you.
That is it. We are now going to check with the online ones. What's happening there?
No, thank you, Mr. Kanav, and good day, colleagues. From the online, we have 4 questions, if I can say. The 2 are coming from Tamar Khan, who is representing Business Day. And the first one is, can you provide an update on the government plans to reform the way successful claimants are compensated with the State Liability Amendment Bill? And has the Law Reform Commission completed its work on this issue? And when do you expect to submit a new bill to Parliament? And the second question is, are there any measures that you can point to in a specific provinces that have improved their capacity to weed out bogus claims? And the last 2 questions are coming from from Jacaranda FM.
Just came, I lost track. You say Tamakan asked about the law reform.
Yes. And then the second question, well, from Tamar.
The second question from Tamar is, are there any measures that you can point to in specific provinces that have improved their capacity to root out bogus claims? In Jacaranda FM, the first one, what is the comparison of these claims against those in the private hospitals? And the second one, despite investigation by the SIU, does the high amount of claims signals the culture of negligence in the department? Thank you.
Okay. That was online. I think we need to go towards wrapping up. If there are any in here who have got questions, so that when we respond, we can respond to everyone. Julia?
Junior Kumalo again from Newsroom Africa. I think the Minister summed it up correctly when he said that the proportions and the scale of this corruption is worse than VPS. Given that it's reaching such crisis proportions, is there anything else that's being done besides the investigation by the SIU? I'm asking this because there's a point where you touched on the lawyers getting power of attorney fraudulently and appearing before courts without these claimants. Is there talks between your department, sir, and maybe the NPA or the Justice Department, just to ensure that this does not happen? Maybe have the lawyers be forced to appear with the individuals that they claim to be representing? Just a question.
Okay.
Okay, so when we look at some of these claims that are being investigated, sorry, it's Rorisa Mkhosana from Times Live again.
Okay.
Just an example. In Gauteng, for example, there are 2,450 claims that are submitted, 611 are under investigation. So does that mean that the rest are actually legit claims where there is somebody who suffered negligence, where there is actually a patient who has cerebral palsy or whichever illness that they have or deficiency or disorder that they have? Are those legit claims that are before the courts? And any reaction from the department if that is the case?
Okay. I think that is, oh, you still have a question because I want to wrap up. Okay.
Minister, just the broader corruption in the health sector, are you not worried, or what's being done? Just, for example, Tembisa Hospital, 3 billion of PPE corruption alone. Looking at other hospitals and just the broader health sector, do you have an idea of even maybe how much is being taken via corruption and what's being done, Minister? Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, that was the last question, and we're going to give you the answers and then we wrap up.
Yes. The first questions online from Tamakan, I was trying to save time. We believe, and we have said so and proposed it during the medico-legal summit, that the present method of litigation is archaic. That's why one of the things that Dr. Khan, the Director General of Wealth Organization, was asking me was also relating to this matter. It's an American thing. Shoot each other out in court like cowboys. You know? What many developed countries are doing, and I know, for instance, in countries like Australia, Scandinavia, even for RAF, they do what is called no-fault claim. Here is an individual sitting on a wheelchair because of a car accident. Or because something happened to them in a hospital. Whether it's negligence, why go to court to fight with each other? And the person who comes on top is not necessarily the one who is, what word can I use? Who is carrying justice? It's just the one who was able to convince the judges. If, as a lawyer of a patient sitting on a wheelchair, you're not good enough than lawyers that might have been hired by the state, it means that patient loses out. That's why it's morally difficult for us to defend the case of cerebral palsy, because we can see the child is on a wheelchair. What are you going to defend? It weighs very heavily on us. So what is this birth method used in other countries? They put together a special tribunal that consists of retired judges, retired professors of medicine, retired senior nurses, social workers, etc. They come together. Their job is not to do a shootout, it's to calculate that because we can see this person is on a wheelchair, what will be the compensation, which is reasonable, not encumbered by lawyers' fees and all that and contingencies. What is reasonable to make this person's life comfortable? And they do that. And they say, when they do that, many more people get compensated actually than when the matter goes to court. And this is what we are going to pursue in the country, because we have seen it working in other countries. We have also done it already twice in South Africa, but without the law, just by agreement. During listeriosis, Tiger Brands came to me and said, Minister, out of experience, if this matter goes to court, the people who will ultimately gain are our lawyers as Tiger Brand and your lawyers as a ministry if you I mean, as a plaintiff and we as defendants. The lawyers in both sides will gain. The victims are going to get very little. And so they said, let's just settle. Let's sit down and settle and not go to shoot each other in court. Because in court it depends who has fired more bullets. Or as in a cowboy battle, who has fired the first shot that hits. So we want to change that method. The second time we did it was on silicosis. You may remember, many of you were there, when there was a class action against the mining houses for silicosis. And we convinced them that no, please do out-of-court settlement. This should out. And the out-of-court settlement, which was agreed on, was that the Chamber of Mines will put up 5.8 billion rand, from which we start compensating the individuals. And that happened. The compensation is still on. Only that because some mine workers are not from South Africa, we have only paid 1.6 billion up to so far to 40,000 claimants. But there was no shootout. And the lawyers, because under the old system they were going to get lots of money, 300 million was put aside and say this is for you, rather than you going to get contingency. Because this method of contingency is also causing problems. And what is contingency? A person who is suing doesn't have to pay money to the lawyers. That's why it also encourages them to do it without the power of attorney, or go to defraud the obtaining of the power of attorney, because they don't have to be paid by a poor person. They go and claim, and in terms of South African contingency laws, the contingency fee is 25%, meaning the lawyer is entitled to 25% to whatever the court awards. And that's what is a perverse incentive. But we know in practice many take more than the 25%. So that's why we say the system is archaic. We want to change it and follow what many developed countries are doing, and stop following the American system, which as it is, because it is really destroying the country. So I cannot yet tell when the new bill will be, but definitely we wanted to do that. Any measures in provinces to rule out bogus claims? Yes, the measures are there, but they may not be well formed. And in the second week of September, I've called all the MECs for a retreat of 1 week. One of the central issues is going to be this issue, to find out that the method they choose, because some years back we asked each province to have a special person whose job is only to deal with these facts, to check, this medico-legal only, and nothing else. Some provinces did so to varying successes, but we want it to be a very clear program now, whereby we know exactly how to deal with them. That is why we had called the summit for experts to advise us. And the advices, as we said, were in three, which I've read to you earlier on. How do we compare, Clifford, how do we compare the public and the private? Yeah, obviously they are not comparable. One has got huge amounts of money, as we have said many times when you talk about NHI. And if you have got huge amounts of money, you are able to do things which the person who has got little money can't do, like staffing. You are able to find a lot of staff in the private sector, like buying equipment, because many private sector hospitals are individuals. One might have electronic records. In the public sector, you must have an electronic record that link them all, which is what we are still doing. So the comparison definitely is oceans apart. But as I've told you, the litigation there doesn't go to private hospital mostly. It goes to individual doctors who are in charge of those patients. And I've already given you gynecologists who are being litigated left, right, and center. Perhaps in the same way, we already have areas where gynecologists have all left, obstetricians, because they are very scared. I've already given you that example. So in that regard, in the private sector, the submissions are also will be more or less the same, but because they are managing very well, it's a small institution. It's not like Chris Hani Barabanath Hospital for that matter. When you are running your own practice, it's manageable, but they are also targeted. And the reason why Medical Protection Society, which is a British-based company, but protecting quite a number of doctors, even in South Africa itself. I once had a meeting with them. We had a meeting with them as a Department of Health and asked them why do they want such high premiums. They said no, because the litigation is escalating. Because we are saying the premiums are against individual doctors who are running their own practices. They don't have enough money. Why do you charge them so much? They said no, any insurance charge in terms of the escalation of claims. I'm sure you are aware, even for a motor vehicle accident, for a car, if you keep on having accidents and claiming, they increase your premium. They might not increase mine if I'm not going through having the same accident. So Medical Protection Society said, we are increasing premiums for doctors in private practice because the litigation is escalating. Now, the second question by Clifford is there a high number of, does the high number of claims signify negligence? I started by saying there are many areas where the claims come in. It might be because of adverse events. Adverse events are not negligence. They just happen. But of course you can minimize them. They are not necessarily negligence. If I inject you penicillin and you react and you collapse, that might not be negligence. Maybe negligence might be if I'm unable to treat you because I gave you penicillin while I was not having adrenaline near, or all the other drugs that are used, adrenergic drugs that are used to save you. That will be negligence. But giving you penicillin itself is not necessarily negligence. Or where we give you antibiotics and you develop adverse events. So negligence, that's what maybe people try to treat in court, especially when they charge private practitioners. That the doctor should have done this, should have done that, he didn't do this. That's what makes him doctors to order for you investigations that are not necessary. Because they will be blamed or no, why didn't you do this test? Perhaps the patient will have lived. And it all depends whether the judge also believe that story, that a certain test should have been done to save the patient. So the high number, as I said, might be because of negligence, but it might also be because, as we said, the lawyers who were doing these claims were no longer getting money from RAF, as we started by saying. It was empty, and so they were looking for greener pastures somewhere. So whether there's negligence or not, they developed, in Tata alone, if I'm not mistaken, I don't want to quote wrong figures, at some stage, we counted that within 5 years, 250 legal firms came to establish themselves there. Because elsewhere in RAF, they were no longer getting the money. So it was not necessarily because they checked that there's negligence. It's because they had no way to make their money. So it's a multiplicity of facts. That may also include negligence, of course. Junior, you are saying, is there anything done other than SIU? Yes, as I've said. For instance, we have warned MECs that the moment their department receives a claim for huge amounts of money, there must be a high index of that suspicion that this file will be stolen. They must go and fetch it. I give you an example. The moment I came across this 70 million rand against Limpopo, I immediately phoned the MEC and said, please drop everything you are doing. Rush to Litawa Hospital, please collect that file. They are about to steal it. So we do things like that, but others are obvious things which you do in terms of patient safety to make sure that you check procedures that we are doing. We once gave people an example because the World Health Organization at some stage said, when you are inside an aeroplane, you are 300 times safer than when you are inside the hospital. That's what they once said. While you are flying there and getting scared, but they say it's safer there than inside the hospital because anything can happen. And they are talking about the whole world. And part of the reason is if you are in a plane, they follow certain routines, if you know. No matter how many times you flown, there's a routine they follow. They sit there, they show you this, and they are very strict. If they say we don't want a bag here when you are taking off, you will never fly with that bag here. They will definitely make sure that is packed elsewhere. Even if you've flown that plane in the morning and they've taken you through the drill, when you come back in the afternoon, they do the drill again. And we're seeing hospitals like that there must be a drilling to make sure that you minimize mistakes. And we are trying to train people. And in our retreat with MECs, I'm going to emphasize on that MEC, that you must make sure that there are drill exercises which you never deviate from. Rolisang, you said Gauteng has 2,250 claims. Yes, that's what I said. 611 have been investigated. Does it mean the rest are legitimate? No. It simply means out of the 2,250, they are only at 611. That's why I say it's a tip of the iceberg. They are still going to move on and look into the others. So as we're sitting here, me and you, we're not sure which ones are fraudulent, but seeing from the trend, we believe that is quite a substantial number that is fraudulent. That's why we're asking them to come and withdraw, some of which might have been claiming for children who are diseased or people who didn't give the power of attorney, etc. They will come and withdraw, but the rest are not. We can't conclude that they are legitimate by any means, no. Have you your question? Am I worried about corruption? Why do you think I'm here? Why? Yes, why? Why did we form the counter-corruption unit, which SIU is part of? It's worrying. Look, let me tell you about this medico-legal and the amounts paid. It becomes a vicious cycle. The province of Gauteng pays 1 billion rand for medico-legal. That 1 billion deprives them to hire more nurses, doctors, equipment, and renovate hospitals. Then the rate of negligence or adverse events increase because of this shortage of equipment. that money will have been used. So the more the lawyers litigate and the more they get the money, the more the system goes down and the more litigation comes in. So it's a cycle that is vicious and self-fulfilling. And so it worries. It really worries. I've just spoken to you about 7 billion paid over 5 years. Do you know how many new clinics and hospitals will have built with 7 billion? So because we have got that shortage and there's no equipment, the claims will escalate and it will look like negligence when actually it's a shortage of resources, because resources have gone to pay some of these lawyers like Nonguba who are just stealing the money. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. I think we have come to the end of this proceedings, and if there's anyone who wants any other follow-up, they can approach us. Thank you very much. Press conference is done. Thank you.
Thank you. It's hot here.